coming out tonight. Guitar Hero was introduced in 2005 as a rhythm game, published by Red Octane and Harmonix and distributed by Activision. Over the span of 5 years, Activision would turn Guitar Hero into one of the franchise kings of video gaming, while dodging and rolling through multiple developers just to revive and then immediately kill the franchise in 2017. And in this video, I want to touch on a very important term in the video game industry called oversaturation. But in order to do that, I have to start all the way at the beginning. But I'll make it fast. And I'll use a very confusing title screen that you won't understand until later in the video. So in 1999, Konami released this arcade game called Guitarfreaks, which laid the groundwork for every guitar-based rhythm game to come. It used this guitar, which only had 3 buttons at the time, and the game had about 24 songs maybe, but I don't really know. It was really hard to research. This game was a phenomenon in Japan, and because of that, Red Octane, which was a company that produced specialized video game controllers at the time, teamed up with a video game developer called Harmonix to create the first Guitar Hero game. Guitar Hero 1 released in November of 2005 and had really great reception, resulting in the sequel coming out a year later, Guitar Hero 2. Guitar Hero 2 had even greater reception, still holding the highest Metacritic score out of any Guitar Hero game yet. Both games had great soundtracks, but most of the songs you could play were actually just covers of the songs created by the same people who made songs for games like Dance Dance Revolution. Guitar Hero 1's soundtrack was 64% covers and Guitar Hero 2's soundtrack was 54% covers. Less than a year later, we saw the first Guitar Hero spin-off title called Guitar Hero Rock the 80s. The game released an alright reception, but it was basically just Guitar Hero 2, but with songs from the 80s. Then in October of 2007, Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock released, which I'd probably say is the most important game in the whole entire series, because it was the moment that Activision realized how much money this game series had the potential of making. Legends of Rock also seems to be the fan favorite game of the series to this date. The game was the first soundtrack to have mostly original recordings of the songs, and the game made a lot of money. Guitar Hero Legends of Rock was the first game to make more than $1 billion at retail, and Activision definitely took notice of that sweet, sweet cash. And this was a thing. I agree with anybody that says he's hot because wait till you see it. No, seriously, I wish someone gave me. And I'm pretty sure that the Guitar Hero 3 universe and the Sims universe are the same exact thing.
Boom sham lam, Scooby Doo Bob, she bob, Freddle dee diddle do bob do bow.
It's a very weird game. Now what you're about to see here is a very important year for Guitar Hero, because it's the year that they decided to scale up the release of their games to see just how much money they could rake out of this new phenomenon. But June and July of 2008 brought 3 firsts for the franchise. First, they released their first portable game, Guitar Hero On Tour for the Nintendo DS.
Your box contains 1 Guitar Hero On Tour game, the guitar grip and pick.
You are the master connector person.
To get the most out of a long note, touch the pick anywhere on the screen and wiggle it like a madman.
Woo! Wiggle, 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 yeah!
It was basically like Brain Age for kids who were beat by their parents.
So would I recommend Guitar Hero On Tour for the Nintendo DS? Well, the answer to that question is no.
They also released their first spin-off title devoted to a single artist's discography, Guitar Hero Aerosmith. Now, as a kid, I remember being obsessed with this game for some reason, but looking back, these games seem very limited to just fans of Aerosmith, even if they were easy to develop just based off of Guitar Hero 3. 60% of the songs were just Aerosmith songs, and that's not even including the guitarist Joe Perry's songs, which add on another 12% to the soundtrack. And finally, they released their first mobile game, Guitar Hero 3 Backstage Pass, which was fine. And then 3 months later, Guitar Hero released their 4th mainline game for the series, called Guitar Hero World Tour, and this game included support for a whole band.
We've had some big name musicians help us designing the drum kit.
Yeah, I would say, especially on the expert levels of Guitar Hero, where you're nailing every note from note, it's absolutely like playing what the drummer in that band is playing.
I actually got a blister on my thumb from playing it so much.
Adding drums and vocals into the mix of playable instruments was a big gameplay change for Guitar Hero, and it was definitely in response to the big excitement coming from the Rock Band series a year earlier. At this time, everyone's basement, including mine, just looked like this. Coming off of Guitar Hero 3, this game made a ton of money, and it was clear that this franchise was well established in the gaming industry. And 5 months after the release of the first, Guitar Hero released a sequel to Guitar Hero On Tour and moved the colon to be Guitar Hero On Tour Decades. Wow! Releasing 5 games in 1 year? I mean, what were they thinking? Did they really think people would stick around and keep buying their games? Well, at least it's over. It would have sucked if they thought that this would keep working on people. Activision had a choice here. They could either use the already existing engine that fans knew and loved and created a few really solid games, or they could go full steam ahead and... What was that? Whatever. Let me show you what happened. Activision started off the year in March with their second mobile game, Guitar Hero World Tour Mobile. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure this game changed the gaming world as we know it forever.
This is Guitar Hero World Tour Mobile, and this is Sweet Home Alabama guitar on Expert. Actually medium, but it's pretty hard.
I just don't know how you're gonna beat something like this. They had another title released in March, and it was Guitar Hero's second band-centric title, Guitar Hero Metallica. Now, this game actually had great reviews for such a specific title. 3 months later, we got our third installation of the Guitar Hero On Tour series specifically for the Nintendo DS. Guitar Hero On Tour Modern Hits. You heard that right. In the span of 1 year, Activision released 3 Guitar Hero games that could only be played on the Nintendo DS. In the same month, Guitar Hero Smash Hits came out, and it just kind of happened. It was supposed to be like a game with all the best songs from each mainline Guitar Hero game, plus Rock the 80s, plus Guitar Hero Aerosmith, and it really wasn't well received. Most critics came to the conclusion that Activision could have just released most of these songs as DLC packs or downloadable content. This is the moment in Guitar Hero's lifespan that fans and critics alike started to realize what Guitar Hero is really doing here. IGN summarized this game as the definition of milking and basically said that any of these songs could have been available in any of those previous games just as downloadable content. And they were right. And it just seems like they tried throwing together a new title for no real reason. Well, besides money. Guitar Hero got their warning, but unfortunately for them, it was too little too late. 3 months later, they would release their 5th iteration of the mainline series, Guitar Hero 5, which was actually pretty well received. The game mechanics worked pretty well, which was praised by the critics, but they tried to make the track list explore a lot of other genres, so everyone was able to find songs they liked, but not a lot of them. And then they also had Kurt Cobain as a playable character in this game, which is kind of tone deaf considering he didn't want to be exploited for money. I mean, having him play Smells Like Teen Spirit is one thing, but then you have stuff like this. Oh man, this is a lot of games. 5 last year and this year? I mean, at least they didn't increase it and stopped with a good game. Oh, you thought I was done with 2009. You thought that was it? It was just 5 games? No, why would they did 5 games last year. Why would they do 5 games this year? That's not enough. It's Activision. Just 2 months later, Activision released another spin-off title called DJ Hero. You basically used a turntable to play remixed versions of songs. It looked really confusing. I mean, this was just Activision making another version of a Konami game called Beatmania, and if you haven't noticed the trend, it was very successful. A lot of people liked the soundtrack, and although there were a few technical faults that really hardcore fans noticed, most of it just went by the wayside. Oh, and 1 week later, they had another title released called Band Hero. And you ask me, Nick, Guitar Hero 5, Guitar Hero World Tour, Guitar Hero Metallica, one other title I can't remember because they make so many games. They already introduced the band feature. The real reason it's called Band Hero is just because they use pop songs instead of rock songs. But I don't know why they didn't just call it Guitar Hero Pop Hits or Guitar Hero Top 40. This game is hilarious to me. DS port of this game used this funky looking drum skin which really only works on the DS Lite.
What I love about the drum skin is that when you give that DS to somebody who's never played a video game before, never touched a DS before, they instantly know what to do.
With the drums, you can get like the rhythm going. I love Band Hero!
and it used the guitar grip again, which doesn't work on the DSi or the 3DS. And then you have to use that tiny little microphone for the vocal part.
Let's get it started, huh? Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started.
And this game decided to put Taylor Swift, Adam Levine, and No Doubt in this game. And No Doubt ended up suing them because they thought they were only going to be playable in 3 songs. And the game had about 20 less songs than any other version of Guitar Hero, so besides the fact that you could play Rockstar by NERD, most Guitar Hero fans didn't really find a lot of worth in playing this game. In November, Guitar Hero 5 Mobile happened. Oh god. I'm so tired. And then in December, Guitar Hero Van Halen released. Oh yeah, and it was the worst Guitar Hero rated game of all time. This game must have been so bad it just ended the Guitar Hero band-centric titles for good. A lot of people thought the game was a very dishonest take of Van Halen's history, and they thought the track list missed a lot of key moments in their career. Also, the game used current models of them rather than models of them from the 80s when most of those songs actually released. I don't really understand why they wouldn't go the other way with that. And for their next game, Activision released... Oh my gosh, it's over! No, I'm serious, you heard that right. Guitar Hero released 9 games in the year 2009. And this is the moment I reused the phrase we talked about at the beginning of the video. Oversaturation. Oh my gosh! Wake up, Nick, wake up! Wake up! Who are you? I'm from a future where people found out how much Activision oversaturated the gaming industry with Guitar Hero in 2009, and it completely ruined our sales. We can't let anyone know about this. I have to take people like this guy out and see what makes him tick. I mean, we made like 3 more games and that was it. Can you imagine a world where something like that happens?
Initiating memory sequence.
Guitar Hero made 3 more games and that was it. In 2010, Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock was the 6th game in their mainline series. Looking back, it seems to be one of the fan favorites, but back then, critics weren't a big fan of it. It had this story mode where you recruit characters with special abilities, and then you end up fighting this thing, and some people weren't really huge fans of the soundtrack. DJ Hero 2 came out 1 month later, and it was really well received by fans. It seemed like every mechanic from the first game just improved upon in the sequel. These 2 games weren't that bad, and it seemed like things were looking up for the Guitar Hero franchise, even after dumping 9 games on their fans the previous year. Now that would have been the case if the sales didn't do as poorly as they did. The oversaturation that Activision brought to the series resulted in the sales of Warriors of Rock and DJ Hero 2 doing 63% worse than Guitar Hero 5, DJ Hero, and Band Hero, the 3 big titles from the previous year. It was obvious that people were starting to get tired of these rhythm games after 3 years of them being shoved down their throats. And because of that, we stopped seeing Guitar Hero games for 5 years. In October of 2015, Activision decided to release Guitar Hero Live as a sort of reboot to the franchise. Now, I got this game for Christmas in 2016, and let me tell you, I actually never opened it. I got Fallout 4 the same year, so obviously that game went by the wayside and ended up in my crawl space for 3 years. But just last week, we decided to crack open the box and give it a shot. Party in the back, party in the front. So Guitar Hero Live decided to redesign a major aspect of every Guitar Hero game prior, and that's the controller. They gave the new controller 6 buttons instead of 5, and they put 3 buttons on the top and 3 on the bottom. The bottom buttons representing the white notes, and the top buttons representing the black notes. I actually think I might like this design more than the original design, and most fans of the franchise didn't really have a problem with it. Now, Guitar Hero Live is the first game in the series to use live footage of a band during the songs. Part of me liked this decision because it feels like you're a lot more immersed into the game, and it feels like there's a lot more riding on whether or not you do well, because you either have people constantly cheering you on or everyone screaming at you like they want to kill you. Now, for the same reason, most of me thinks this was a bad idea. In the old games, you could pick your song and then pick the venue you wanted to play it on and pick the character you play as. But in this game, since they have specific bands playing exactly what the actual song is playing, every song only has 1 performance, so you see the same thing over and over again. There are 2 different videos taken for each song. One is of the crowd cheering you on, and the other one is the crowd yelling at you like you just racially profiled one of the audience members. And that's one of the problems with this game. Even if you're doing all right and you happen to mess up a little bit, all of a sudden they go from one mood directly to the complete polar opposite, just in a split second. This game also had a feature called GHTV. It was an online experience that used some microtransactions, and it added hundreds of songs to the game's library. Luckily, this gave the player tons of songs to choose from, and if you were a fan of the gameplay, there was really never any content to run out of. Unluckily, I opened this game about a year and a half too late because in December of 2018, the GHTV servers ran down, leaving only about 8% of the playable songs on the game available for me to play. That's 42 songs. Usually these games have 85 songs for me to play from. So now you're buying a full game with a complete new controller, and you only have 42 songs to play from, most of which I'm not really a big fan of. Guitar Hero is such a weird roller coaster of a game series, from the constant change in developers, to the weird 3D models of real musicians, to the ever-changing choice of whether or not to use a colon in their game title, and custom tracks like this. All the way to the insane amount of games they seem to pump out in such a short amount of time. Oversaturation will kill any game series, no matter how loved it is by fans. Guitar Hero is a game that capitalized on the excitement of millions for rhythm games, and although I think the excitement for these games would have died out even if Activision didn't pump out 14 games over 2 years, I'm sure Guitar Hero could have left a better legacy than this. And because of that, 13 years after its release, Guitar Hero was dead. He's dead. Take him away, boys. I won't let you down, Nick. I won't let you down. Thank you to everyone who watched this video. Please let me know in the comments what you want me to talk about next week, and please subscribe for a new video every week. My recommendation for the week is Voice, an app that was originally on the App Store but is now also available on the Nintendo Switch. I haven't played much of the game outside of the demo, but for anyone who's looking for a game that's strictly rhythm and nothing else, this seems like a really great title. And this week's Gamer of the Week, drumroll please. My dad, who got 100% playing Gold on the Ceiling on casual mode in Guitar Hero Live.
I didn't make one mistake.